Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Newman City Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting, June 28, 2011. If you please stand, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, we thank you for bringing us here tonight. We ask that you watch over this great city of Newman, and we ask that you give this council the wisdom and the guidance to make the right decisions for this city. In this we pray, amen. Amen. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Hutchins.
Present.
Candia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Present.
Mayor Caton.
Okay, declaration of conflict of interest. There being none. Ceremonial matters, none tonight. Items from the public, non-agenda items.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Dave Reed, 1541 Kern Street. I noticed on the consent calendar is a support the application of grant funds under statewide park development community revitalization program for the sports complex to be put in the Mariposa, was set aside for the city park, but it's in there, and there is evidently no public hearing on it. I'd like to voice my opinion, so I'd like to have that, if you could, pull it from the consent calendar and put it on the next agenda for a agenda item. Thank you.
We would recommend that we need to get that item onto for the grant application. So that's why we're asking that you take action on that tonight. Even if we move forward, there's still a sequel process, and we'll still have to look at all of our impacts associated with the development of a park site out there. So, if we have any questions, I might be able to attempt to answer them tonight.
You can pull it off for discussion.
We can
tonight.
pull it off for discussion.
Okay,
if
Pull it off for discussion tonight.
So do we want to move that to
Move it
like
to-
10E?
It's going to be 8F, I believe.
It is 8F, but do we want to pull it and
You
make
just
it
pull it
10E?
from consent, we can discuss it, and then take separate action on it, correct?
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Vicki Lucas. I'm with the Newman Chamber of Commerce, and I have given to you a flyer this evening regarding having a car show or classic car show August 6th here in Newman at the Downtown Plaza. I just wanted to come talk to you tonight and see if I can get on the agenda for July 12th to just have a further discussion on this and to talk to you about some waivers of insurance and daily sales permits. And so if you have any questions.
Any questions from the council?
Do we, I assume we have no other,
Yeah.
anything else on the 22nd?
On the 12th, it'll be on July 12th is what
No, nothing more for the plaza on the 22nd? No other events?
You mean August 6th?
August 6th.
I mean August 6th, I'm sorry.
No, at this point in time, there are no other events on that. So basically what she's been working with our chief right now, and because we have downtown event standards, she's working with them on establishing those. However, staff does not have the authority to waive certain things, which are permits and a few other liability issues. So she would like to come before you on July 12th and ask for those considerations at this point in time. I think also is she'd like to get this flyer out in front of you right now to let you know that that's an event that the chamber would like to proceed with and start getting some mailers out and kind of get your concurrence that you think it's a good idea without taking formal action on the waivers. And so that way she can get her mailing packets out and she can start drumming up vendors and those types of things and participants in the car show. So
Tom, can we just direct staff to put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Right.
As long as we have a concurrence of the
Yes.
council?
Yes, you can do that, and then you can also do, as Mike said, that additional, since you're putting it on for the next agenda, you might be supportive in theory, so she can go ahead with the mayor.
Which would be supportive of the event, but and still take into consideration her individual request.
Right, okay. At the next.
Very good.
Well, I'd move that we put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Motion made and seconded that we put on the next agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Farini, and I'm the branch manager of your Newman Library. I wanted to take a moment and let you know that we have an exciting science-based children's program coming up on July the 5th at 3:30 in the afternoon. This program is a part of the Stanislaus Reads program, and as our theme this year is California agriculture, we are having a variety of crafts and science projects for all ages based around that theme. We will be analyzing the differences in soil, finding the DNA in strawberries, matching seeds to the fruits and vegetables that they produce, and much more. Flyers for this program, as well as entry forms for our adult summer reading program, are in the back. Adults can enter into our adult summer reading program. It's a contest where they could win a gift basket worth approximately $100 just by reading any book, writing a quick review, and then returning the form to the library by August 15th. Thank you for your time.
What was the time on that, on the 5th?
3 p.m.
3:30 on July the 5th.
3:30. Thank you. Any other items from the public? There being none, we'll move to the consent calendar. A, waive all readings of ordinance and resolutions except by title. B, approval of warrants. C, approval of minutes of June 14th, 2011, regular meeting. D, approval of city manager contract extension and amendment. E, adopt resolution number 2011, next number, resolution amending the City of Newman personnel rules. And F is the one that we're going to, supporting of the Newman Youth Sports Alliance application for statewide park program grant funds and approval of land tenure letter of commitment for 648 West Mariposa Street.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to pull warrant number 39419 to NSYNC Systems, and also to pull F on the support for separate consideration.
Okay. Could I have a motion on the other items, please?
I second the motion.
I'll make a motion that everything except for those two things be
Okay.
approved.
Okay, I have a motion and
I
a
second
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we have the two motions now, the warrant 39419 and item F, support of Newman Youth Sports Alliance.
And as 039-419 10-6 System, since I don't sit on their board of directors, I can't vote on that one.
Okay. So could I have a guidance from the other council member?
Which one was that?
It's 39419. Warrant.
I'll make a motion, we approve that warrant.
I second the motion.
Motion made and seconded that warrant 39419 be approved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried with one abstention. Now move to item consent number 8, 8F.
Mayor Pro Tem, if you'd like, maybe Mr. Reed can come up and maybe
Yeah.
voice his concerns at this time, and then we can see if the council or staff can address those concerns at this time.
Okay, very good. Mr. Reed. Otherwise known as David.
Good evening again. This was originally 10 acres, I believe, for a city park, and by building the other hill park, that we didn't need this evidently. So as far as doing something with it, that's one thing, but turning over the Sports Alliance, I'd just like to know more about it, you know, when they're having their events, just days or nights or what, because the prevailing winds are from west to east. And right now, I could sit out in my backyard in football season and hear a play-by-play at the high school. That's only 5 or 6 nights a year, which is fine, and they're done by 10 o'clock. But I'd just like to see this controlled to a point where there's a lot of people live in that area, and to make sure that everyone is considered there before we approve this thing. Approving supporting them to get the grant is one thing, but actually going through with it, I'd like to see that as a public hearing and get more comments on it. Any questions? Thank you.
Mr.
Mayor Pro Tem, so what we have tonight is the Newman Youth Sports Alliance is submitting an application for a grant to develop that as a park site, which would be softball fields. The softball complex is predominantly consistent with what the original use was, because there was always softball fields, baseball fields there as part of the original design. Now it's always I think originally there was 2 or 4. Now there's a few more. What I can say though is prior to us moving forward, there still has to be a CEQA document, an environmental review process, at which time the public has to be involved. All impacts such as noise, traffic, light, all have to be mitigated as part of the process. So this will come back through the city council. This is only basically a letter supporting their application and saying if they get it, we're going to work with them on a land tenure agreement. And we still have to go through all the CEQA documents and public hearings that are necessary through any approval.
Okay. Any comments from the council?
No, as the city manager said, we'll have to talk to everybody within a great distance of there anyway at a certain point in the CEQA. So
Yeah,
it's
and we'll
going to
have-
have to be.
And they'll ultimately there's going to have to be controls placed on it. What days they can do it, what times. I mean, there's got to be a cap. 10 o'clock the lights have to go off, or there's going to be placards and thresholds placed on this particular project here, again, to mitigate the impact on residents within that immediate area over there, as well as traffic, light, noise. There's many measures that still are going to need to be mitigated as part of the design of this thing.
Okay, what you're saying then, Mr. Reed's request, he will have that opportunity.
Mr. Reed will have another opportunity to review the design, to give his comments on the design, to look at the impacts, to look at what the city's doing about those impacts, and have a say in those as a private resident.
Just a quick question, Michael, on Section 2, the environmental review. It says that the city is going to act as the lead, but they're going to pay for it?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's basically be Stephanie and...
We, depending on how our work schedule goes, it could either be Stephanie or we could contract that
it out.
out
Okay.
and then have somebody do that for us.
Okay. Then I need a motion on F, please.
I'd make a motion that we submit the application for grant funds.
I second that motion.
Motion been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next item, number 9, public hearing. A is adopt resolution number 2011. Next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I bring before you tonight more nuisance abatements. Letters were sent out to property owners within the city, advising them of their property and the abatements that follow them and their right to a public hearing. It is anticipated that many property owners will complete their own cleanup prior to us having to clean up their property for them, which many of them did. Tonight, there's only 2 properties that did not, and those are 925 Fig, which are tall weeds and grass, listed in the picture up on the screen, and 1129 Duck Blind Circle, which is graffiti on the fence. So staff recommends that City Council consider for possible further action of abatement. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Chief, just a question on the graffiti. Was that taken care of timely, or was it?
It's a public or a private property, so we can't go in and clean it up.
Okay.
We ask them to clean it up for them. If they won't, then we do it as an abatement. It's just like tall weeds and anything else. So it currently still sits there.
Doesn't
Today.
fall under the guidelines of what we have for graffiti in city, as far as that it has to be removed within so many hours.
Yes, but they still have to go through the abatement process.
We can't go on private property and
Right.
do improvements without,
Well, I don't know about that.
without their,
Does the city provide any paint if they will cover it, or are they required to get their own paint and
I
stuff?
think we used to have a program, but that there was somebody doing it on their own, but I don't believe that we currently are doing. We don't provide the paint. I'm not sure.
yeah, we used to have a program where Mr. Vandervoort used to do it, and he would get paint from the county. I'm not sure the status of that program. It was usually run through the police department, so it doesn't sound like that one's still active.
Okay.
We haven't had contact with that group in quite a while.
Other questions?
No.
Thank you, Chief.
I make a motion that we approve
Wait,
adoption.
excuse me, this is a public hearing, so we'll have to
I'm
open
sorry.
it up for the public. At this time, I'll open it up for public to make any comment. No comments, I'll bring it back to the council for action, please.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution 211, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Second the motion.
Motion is made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Item B, be second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2011, an ordinance amending Title IX, Police Regulations, Chapter 9.02, Animal Control of the Newman City Code, and authorizing staff to publish a summary of said ordinance.
Good evening again. Bring before you the second reading and recommend public hearing and adoption of the ordinance set before you. This ordinance was introduced on June 14th council meeting. Since then, we've received nothing but positive comments, with the exception of some of the wording that goes in there into the ordinance that people have questions about. I think you'll probably hear some of those questions later tonight from the public. But based on the amount of the complaints of barking dogs within the city limits and pet owners not being responsible for their animals, we felt the need for an ordinance in place to control the dog barking and maybe set some fines along with that if people don't control their animals due to the amount of complaints that we have. Some of the key points would be complaining people. The first time somebody complains, we'll go to the house, we'll make sure the dogs are licensed. If we get two separate people to complain on the same residence, then there will be a first level of fines administered, which I believe is $150. No, $100. The second one within 6 months would be $250, and the third one would be $500. So, we're asking you to approve or open this to the public hearing and approve this ordinance tonight. I'll turn it over to the public.
This time we'll open it for any public comment. Gentlemen, back please. Well, two gentlemen.
Good evening, council members. My name's Derek Thibodeau. I live at 639 Rodeo Grounds Way. This has been an ongoing issue for me over the past probably 4 years, and it comes and goes. But I do have a question in regards to the first complaint and then on to the second complaint, where it has to come from two separate residences. And I understand the reason why is, you don't want to have, get in the middle of a feud between one neighbor and one other neighbor. My question is, when the written complaint is signed by two separate neighbors, is that complaint formally introduced to the offender, the barker in this case? Or, because I just worry about retaliation from the barking dog, or the barking dog owner, I should say.
Are you asking if the names will be released? Probably, no, the names would not be released.
So it would still remain
It would
anonymous.
still remain anonymous, but we would just have paperwork saying, if they challenged it in court, obviously, yes, but for the citation, no, unless there was a public hearing, them challenging the citation, then we would obviously have to release the names.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Scott Barris from 1549 Langston Drive. I'm kind of concerned about this, having to have two separate complaints to really do anything. My reading, at least from the article in the newspaper, is that if my neighbor's dog is making my life impossible, the police will come out and talk to him, ask him if he has a dog license, and then sounds like the guy's got a free ride unless I can find someone else to sign on with me who's also annoyed by this dog. Fortunately, at the present time, I don't have that problem, but I have had a really, really bad problem for literally years. And I really don't think that my other neighbors have been bothered by this dog. But I think that there should be a little more something, a little more options, or perhaps, or it sounds like right now, if you don't have two people complaining about the dog, you're just out of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, my name's Lauren Miller, and I live at 724 Ailer Mountain Court. And I've had an ongoing problem since I have moved here a year ago. And I'm just tickled pink that you people are considering doing something that makes this community a little bit better for us. I don't believe we live in a community like this so that we can have our neighbors abuse us. And that's exactly what I think has been happening out there, and it's happened to me on a continuous basis. And I've had good response from the police department. I can't ask for any better response. It's the enforcement that I asked for. And I think this is a step forward, but we need to make sure that these people understand that this is a major problem and they need to get control of their animal. And it would make our lives a lot simpler, and it makes our lives what they should be instead of what they are right now, and which is miserable. When you have a dog that barks from 5:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. And I would ardently help or say and support even stricter rules than what you have here. The single issue, I understand. I can complain because I don't like my neighbor, but there's got to be some adjudication of that to the point where if I complain 15 times, something's got to happen. And so somewhere down the road, there needs to be some language put in there that the single complainant who has no support from the rest of the neighborhood does still have some rights. And it doesn't take two people to be irritated by somebody's barking dog. Thank you.
Thank you. Bring it back to the council for questions or anything.
Just a couple of questions for the chief. I'm assuming this one, it's a citation even though it is an administration citation, correct?
Correct.
And it is signed? I think we'd have to check with an attorney, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be public knowledge and they would have to be released. The names would have to be released.
I agree with you.
Push came to shove.
Right.
I mean,
And-
even if it doesn't go to court, if he comes in and asks, I think we would have to give it to him.
I think that's what I was trying to refer to without saying, I don't think any of our officers will release the names on scene. If somebody came down and pushed the issue, obviously it's public record and we would have to release it. But on scene, we would try to do our best to keep the complaining neighbors anonymous. I mean, I believe most people know what neighbors aren't going to like the barking dogs. They're going to maybe figure it out on their own, but we'll do our best. But if push comes to shove, yes, absolutely, we'd have to release the names.
With number 2 on here, the other question I had, Chief, was when the second complaint is received from a citizen, officers will establish that the complaint, so officers can go ask the neighbors, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, they can search out and see if they can get other people to sign.
Absolutely, that's the intention. We're trying to avoid neighbor feuds. Yes, if if we get calls 15 times, you can be assured that our officers will check with other neighbors to make sure that, they're not being bothered. Also, that would be fair to both parties.
Well, I just want people to understand that two people don't have to call in.
Correct.
We can try to find the second person that will sign, especially if it's that 15th time down the road.
Correct.
You can see this is a very important ordinance to a lot of people,
Yes, it is.
probably all of us.
Yes, it is.
And so it's something that should have some teeth in it and should do the job.
The only other question I have is intermittently for 30 minutes, what does that mean?
That means if your dog barks for 2 minutes, stops for a minute, barks, because say for it bark 10 minutes straight, it's hard for a dog to do, to bark for 30 minutes straight without any
Not in my neighborhood.
without any breaks. I mean, intermittently means, they continuously bark for 30 minutes, but not a continuous bark. You know what I mean? There could be a 30-second gap between barks. You could have one neighbor say, well, I heard it barking, but then I didn't for a few minutes, and then I heard it barking again.
So that's not continuous?
The 10 minutes continuous would be nonstop barking.
I'm thinking more the case it barks for 2 or 3 minutes, and then 15 minutes later it starts barking again. That's intermittent,
right.
but I just wonder if we would have a hard time.
We're trying to avoid the people that have dogs that bark for the correct reason. That somebody's coming into a house and they're barking, and or somebody's in their neighborhood and they're barking for the correct reasons. They bark for a couple minutes, the problem goes away, whatever the problem may be, and then they stop barking. Like dogs, some people have dogs specifically for that reason, to protect their homes. But the ones that bark just to bark, and continue to bark and continue to bark, I think all of us have dogs in our neighborhoods that do that. Those are the ones we're seeking out. That we want the homeowners and the pet owners to be responsible and take care of the problem. Through a barking collar, the vocal, or whatever it may be.
Well, I'm the one that introduced this ordinance last time because I have a few of those in my neighborhood. I'll go ahead and...
Direction?
Let's see, where is it? The second reading out, I would make a motion on the adoption of ordinance number 2011, next number, and ordinance amending Title 9 Police Regulations, Chapter 9.02, Animal Control of the Newman City Code, and authorizing staff to publish a summary of said ordinance.
I second that motion.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you.
Put some teeth in it. Okay, this is also a public hearing. It's adoption resolution number 2011. Next number, a resolution confirming the assessment and ordering the levy for the lighting and landscaping maintenance district for fiscal year 2011-2012. Mr. Gardner.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. As you stated, the item before you tonight is consider adopting a resolution confirming the assessments and ordering the levy for the lighting and landscape maintenance district for fiscal year 2011-12. Pursuant to the Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972, MBS, our consultant, has prepared and filed the 2011-12 annual report presenting the plans and specifications describing the general nature, location, and extent of the improvements to be maintained and estimate and cost to maintain these improvements. In accordance with the Lighting and Landscape Act of 1972, on May 10, 2011, City Council adopted a resolution initiating proceedings for the levy and collections of these assessments. And on May 24, 2011, City Council adopted a resolution approving the annual report and establishing the intention for the levy and collection of the assessments for the district for fiscal year 2011-12. The district has been operating in a deficit for the last several years, relying on reserves to fund the ongoing operation and maintenance of the district. Increasing the assessments will allow the district to recover and maintain a reserve fund that will allow for the continued operation and maintenance of the improvements in a safe and vigorous and satisfactory condition. Staff is recommending phasing in the assessment increase at 25% per year over the next 4 years to minimize the impact to the residents. Therefore, the proposed assessment for the district for fiscal year 2011-12 is $233,738.49, which is about an $18,777.39 increase for one fiscal year. The average annual assessment per parcel is about $8.92, with a minimum of $1.94 and a maximum is $36.86. As I previously stated, 3 resolutions were adopted by City Council initiating the proceedings for the levy and collection of the assessments, approving the annual report, and establishing the intention for the levy and collection of the assessments for fiscal year 2011-12. The last step in this process is for City Council to conduct the public hearing concerning the levy of the assessments and to confirm the assessments and to order the levy for the district. Therefore, staff recommends City Council adopt a resolution confirming the assessments and ordering the levy for the Lighting and Landscape District, Maintenance District for fiscal year 2011-12. At this time, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions at this time?
I think we have to open the public hearing now.
Since there's a public hearing, I'll open it up to public for any comments. There being none, I bring it back to the council for direction.
Garner, how much, if we only go 25% per year, how much are we going to go deeper in the hole in the 2011, 2012?
Our projected ending balance this year is $127,000. By increasing it by 25% this year, our ending balance next year is estimated at $83,776. So we would be losing approximately $43,000.
So by the end of 4 years, how far in the hole are we going to be?
Well, staff is committed to try to work within the budget and to not dip into those reserves if we don't have to, unless we have some other improvements that are necessary. And that's what's projected if we continue as we are, but we're committed to reduce our expenditures into that fund and to do what we can to work within what we've been given. So we don't anticipate that we'll actually eat into the district and the $43,000. It should be less than that. However, there will be some reserves that will be necessary. We project that next year we could be looking at another $18,000 to $20,000 that would be coming back to front of council again to ask for, to raise that another 25%, and by then we should be evening out, and then we'll start increasing our reserves again. Probably by year 3 or 4, we'll start increasing the reserves.
Direction?
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution confirming the assessment and ordering the levy for the Lighting and Landscape Maintenance District for fiscal year 2011, 2012.
I'll second that motion.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We'll move on to regular business. Tonight we have an appointment of members to fill vacancies on Park and Recreation Commission. And I believe we have 2 applicants?
We actually have 2 applicants, 3 openings. Unfortunately, Mr. Rangel had to work tonight, so he was unable to make it.
Okay.
And our young adult, who's actually at Orriston High, and is looking for the non-voting student rep on the rec commission, is not here tonight as well. So
no one's
we have not heard from him. I'm sorry.
So we can't take any action.
Well, that'd be up to the council at this point in time.
We could, but do they really, they want the position?
Sebastian wants, I know, they both want the position. You know, with the student rep, his grandfather is the chair.
Okay.
So he's seen a lot of it, and Mr. Rangel has been a longtime member of the rec commission. Unfortunately, earlier in the year when it first came up, he wasn't sure that he could commit to it. Now that his work schedule has allowed him to evaluate that, he believes he can now meet the commitment of the rec commission.
Very good. Council?
Well, I'd personally like to
You'd
at
like to
least
interview?
have them here.
Yes.
Okay, well, we can put it off till next meeting. Is that be acceptable to everyone? Sure. Okay, so be it. No action on that appointment of members to fill vacancy on Park and Recreation Commission.
It sure didn't say much on that.
Okay, next item, item B, is report on building department's assessment of the Yancey building.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Before our building official comes up, you did receive a letter from the Historical Society with respect to the Yancey building, which sits across Main Street behind the Carnegie Museum. We've had our building official go out there and evaluate it based upon the concerns that they talked about, and we wanted him to come forward. Just as a precursor, when we look at grant funding for this particular building here, What we're finding out is it's going to be very difficult to get grant funding, and the reason is the building's been moved twice, and under state and federal guidelines, it has very little historic value. And some of that it's because it's been added on and then torn off. The porch has been added on. It's not using the original materials. Old windows have been boarded up, and the building's really been changed. So the opportunity to really get some grant funding to do some rehab on that is probably going to be limited. So again, from a federal and state guidelines perspective, the building probably has very little historic value. But it does have local, historic, and sentimental value. So with that, I'm going to have Mr. Brinkman come up. He's our chief building official, talk a little bit about the condition of the building.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I was asked by Michael to take a look at the building, and I guess there was concerns that it was leaning or it was settling. It's sitting on large timbers that were used when the building was moved. And looking at the ground, how it sit, the timbers aren't settling. They look like they're in the original condition when it was set there. And the building itself the main house portion is in good condition. There may be a slight lean, but it could be because of the grade is not level. The porch is not separate from the main house, but it's an add-on. It's not part of the same flooring system. So that portion is settling. It's 2x4, just basically holding it up. So that part settling one way, the house maybe a little lean the other way, could give it a bigger projection of it tipping. But I talked with local contractors, and they estimate roughly $15,000, possibly $20,000 to put a new foundation under the house and porch. You got to look at we're in a floodplain there, that's the original place that wants to be. So it's got to be elevated at least 24 inches. I don't know what the use is, proposed use, but if it's public access, then there'll have to be disabled access to it, which is a ramp and all the other accessible features. It needs a new roof and some dry rot starting to deteriorate, and obviously the east side is not weatherproof, so that's over time it's going to deteriorate more. So,
Question, your 15 to 20,000, that's just for the foundation?
yeah.
Any idea what it's going to cost to completely, let's say if we moved it and put it back into the best state we possibly could?
Moved it as far as a different location, or
Right. Any idea on the cost?
I would guess, depending on what was going to be used on the inside, I don't know if there's going to be restrooms or just a meeting room or a museum. I would guess 30 to 40,000.
So we're looking at.
I think originally it cost, I want to say 7,000 to 10,000 just to move it from where it was at to its current location.
That was years ago, though, right?
Yeah, I don't suspect it'd be. I mean, obviously there's going to be some inflation cost to it, but it's not too much more work because they had already lifted it and moved it, and now it's already set up on tiers to move again. And there's already braces underneath, correct, Mike, so that could be lifted?
Yeah, it's pretty much ready to be moved, so that wouldn't be as much.
But we're still looking at 50 to 60K to renovate it to make it usable.
At least, I mean, and again, I think there's a lot of unknowns because we don't know what is being proposed for use. If you're going to have public access to it, you got to, and you're in the flood zone, you know, you got to raise it a minimum of 24 inches. Probably want to keep it below 30 because then you got some railing issues that go in. And if you probably have a 1 to 30 type slope, so for your ramps and landings, and you know, there could be a pretty big cost to building a ramp and a few other things on there on top of moving it too. Plus any kind of design that goes on depending on where you're moving it to.
It could easily get to $100,000, right?
With total rehab and everything, that would not be out of the question. Whether it reaches that number, I don't know. It just depends on the eyes and what the final finishes are. I mean, anything can get to 100,000 pretty quickly when you start gold flaking it, but you know, I think one thing to take into consideration is, you know, it's we've had a lot of conversations about where the final resting place needs to be for that building. I think that's probably a decision I think this council probably should start considering, and whether you do it tonight or whether you have staff go back and look at it some more. That's really going to be your first determination where your final resting place for that is. And then as part of that conversation about resting places, what's the use going to be? And then you can make some decisions accordingly. Okay, it's going to go to the plaza and it's going to be a visitor center, and who's going to staff it and do all those other things is one way to look at it. The other one is, well, you know what? Historical Society has started to like it there. They can use it for storage of their products. Maybe we rest it there, save some of the moving costs, build a foundation there, and get it moving there. So I think we need to have that conversation before we really start getting too much into that. So with council concurrence, we can bring this back before you and have a final determination on a resting spot for that and a final use. It's probably our best decision before we go any further.
Well, I guess my only question is, of course, I wasn't here when a lot of these discussions were going on earlier, but looking at where it is, behind another large building, and I think this was one of the Historical Society's problems, was it, who's going to even know that it's there?
Well, there was actually a plan drawn up that shows that if you really look at it now, it's not in necessarily a bad, unviewable location because it is facing Kern. You can decorate it with a more decorative type fencing. You can do some walkways up to it. You can enhance the backyard. And I think if you've seen those council members that were here and saw some of those color renderings that we did and added some grass and some landscape out there, you could kind of turn that into a park-like setting back there in its current location, and it would fit in basically because it's in a historical building at our historical museum. So
the big thing I worry about is moving it again. I mean, it's already been moved twice. Sooner or later, you're going to have something that's not going to go right in a move like that, I would think,
Usually,
right?
yeah, there's no metal strapping holding corners and whatnot. It's nails, so the more you move it, the looser the timbers get. So,
Mike, in your expert opinion, how soon do we need to get a foundation? Or are we going to have problems if we don't get it, say, within the next year? Or
I would say, yeah, you'd have at least a year before the weather gets inside and starts really deteriorating.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, the only comment I'll make is, we've lost a lot of historical things in this town. And I think, we have to look back and see what we've lost and why we lost it. And I don't think it's a good idea. A lot of people are very interested in that building historically. I mean, and like Mike said, it has more value to the people who lived here all their lives than historically. Maybe the state doesn't think it's a historical monument or anything, but we can't lose any more. We lost our bus. I don't know what happened there. We lost our train station. It's gone. We lost the high school because nobody was smart enough to realize they could have saved it. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And you know something? You got to save these things. They're part of us, and when you look back, and you can say, oh, I remember when we had that. I mean, the bus, I can't understand the bus. The bus is gone, That doesn't make any sense at all. I'm going to get off my soapbox, but I'm just saying, I think these items are really important to our city, and they make a lot of sense. We have items throughout the whole city that are falling apart because they're not being taken care of. And so I just think we need to go out there and reassess these things and consider, doing something about it, rather than just let them rot, So that's my feeling.
I assume, Michael, that since RDA has gone by way of the
Yeah.
governor, then we would have to use capital improvement funds or something like that to do this?
We would probably use general fund reserve monies. So, at this point in time, I don't see any other source, and we could look through and see where we're at. But essentially, you're using general fund monies to do that. So now I think, again, I haven't done the full analysis on it, but the most cost-effective, time-saving measure would be to put it where it's at, get a foundation under it now, set it and allow the Historical Society to come in and do their rehab on the structure as it sits. If you're trying to move it to the plaza, as we've heard, moving it a third time, because originally it came from Hills Ferry to here, then from that location to its current location, then to move it back to the plaza location, you would still have to do some design work at the plaza, and finding its location, water lines, sewer lines, or whatever type of other line, cutting in some other things. So from a cost and time perspective, the most economical way is to probably work with the drawing that we have right now. We can bring these back up for you. I'm not asking you to make a decision. It's probably reevaluate that and see if that's something that you think still works in the long run. If it does, then we pursue that option.
I think, Michael, if we get a foundation, we're there, because Historical Society is already committed to refurbish some of it. So if we get a foundation and get that secure, then at least I think that's going to save the building, and then they can proceed with the other items that they want to take care of.
So with that, have to go out to an RFP, Michael, for that, or is it small enough?
What I would recommend with the concurrence of the council is to just have us re-agendize this in next month.
That'd be fine.
Come back with a full report to you, and I'll work with Mike again and really try to fine tune those numbers a little bit. Get your concurrence if that's the direction we want to go, and if so, then direct staff at that point to go out for a design build type contract, so somebody can come out, build the foundation underneath it, raise it up, and then set it back down on there.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Would you?
So do I have
Thank
some
you.
council
Thank you,
concurrence
Michael.
on that one, I guess?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that'll be agendized the next month, I guess. Okay. I get on this historical things and I get excited, sorry. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna have a report on the Main Street. This is item C, report on the Main Street intersection rehabilitation project. We're back again, our Gardner.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, we are, council members. So the item before you tonight is a report on the Main Street Intersections Rehabilitations Project. This has been something that's been brought up over the last few years, and we've kind of started coming to some resolutions on it, so I kind of want to run through some options for you. The Downtown Streetscape Project was completed at approximately 2001, and it included the rehabilitation and reconstruction of crosswalks along Main Street from Merced to Kern. And when they did the rehabilitation, this is a structural concrete that was put in. The names are poured separately with a brick band around it, and then right along here and right along here is a structural section that kind of holds everything in place, 6-inch wide by 16-inch deep concrete, and then there's some colored concrete in here and then asphalt on each side. City staff has attempted to repair some of the, we have attempted to repair some of the letters in the street because they are getting to a point where the rebar is starting to show down here on M Street, or Merced, I mean. And over here, the E has been repaired, and Fresno, we can see we're having some issues with that over there. And it's getting to the point where it's exposing the rebar and creating unsafe conditions. So staff has done some research and possible methods on how we can bring some suggestions to council for their consideration to complement the architectural look of the downtown. One option that we considered was to make a structural section of the Main Street, pour the names in it, and this would be a separate section where you come in and you saw cut out around it, make this, you come back in and you set it in place on each street name. With the rebar, you can see the rebar shown in here on the section. In general, the pros and cons of this are, one of the pros is that it's quick and easy when it comes to construction type practices. You come in, you get all prepped, you come back later that night, and then you set these in place. That's the nice thing about it. It's shorter on your construction duration. The bad part about this is it's going to look like it's repaired, in my mind. You're going to see where these have been saw cut out. And I kind of just drew some lines in here to kind of demonstrate what you would see. You would not get a perfect match on the colors of these concretes. May not even be able to match the stamped pattern as well. It kind of depends. Every concrete batch is different. If you want your color to match, you have to make it all at one time. So if they make a batch the next day, even that's going to have a little variation in the concrete color. So this could be something that you would be looking at. And so one of the negatives would be that it would look like it's repaired. The estimated cost for this is approximately $110,000. Another option would be to come in and remove the entire crosswalk up to that structural 6-inch by 16-inch curb that I was talking about, even removing the brick bands, and put in cobbled pavers. Cobbled pavers need a structural edge to lay against so that they don't migrate. They're structurally strong enough to withstand traffic and things of that nature, but they do need a structural edge, such as you can see on this area in here where they put this structural edge in here. Here's an example of a calstone name that was inlaid with the structural pavers. The coloration isn't quite right, but the recommendation would be to put in a tan variation color similar to the crosswalks as they are now in a herringbone pattern, and then cut in the calstone, not calstone name, but cut in the street names in a charcoal contrasting color. Wouldn't look good having calstone everywhere. Here's a kind of a close-up of what you would see. They actually come in and individually cut each block. We would not have this little spot on here. We would change the font to the fonts that we have now, which is an Arial bold font. And these, in my mind, truck traffic would probably bust those off, and we're back in the situation we're in now. And so this is kind of an up-close look on what you would look at. I kind of merge the two together right here, and you can kind of see if you get the right precision, they're pretty tight tolerances, and I think in the specs we've already developed, we're looking at some 16-inch tolerances is what we'd be looking at for the contract. So this is an example of the pavers with contrasting letters in them, and kind of an overall schematic of what the engineer has started putting together for us on what you would be looking at. So your brick bands would be gone along the edge, and the remaining structural edge would stay there around that areas of the asphalt, and this is a colored concrete that's in here, and that band would stay in. And the benefit of this is that it's a brand new intersection at that point. It doesn't look like it's been patched, and it just looks new when you come in and put all three of these in. The negative part to it is that, well, the other benefit is that any repairs that would have to be done, the cobbles can be removed, repaired, and put back in place, and it's not like we had to saw cut out concrete and put it back in. A couple of the negatives to this is that there's three other intersections that do not have street names in them that we aren't considering as part of this project. And the one would be right out here on this intersection on Main Street in front of the theater, and then Fresno and P Street. But they don't have names in them, and they're structurally fine. They haven't had any cracking or anything otherwise. So our recommendation would be to look at a coloration that would be similar to what we have out there with the herringbone pattern in the areas around the street names. And this is an Arial bold font for the street names. One of the negatives is this is a bit more expensive than option number one. In the staff report, it says it's approximately $130,000. It's actually going to be between $130,000 and about $158,000, depending on the structural section that we put under the pavers. The initial estimate for $130,000 was for 60 millimeter pavers. The city engineer is recommending going to 100 millimeter pavers with a structural concrete section underneath that with some rebar to withstand the heavier truck traffics that we get sometimes across Fresno Avenue and Merced. Going with the thicker pavers and a heavier structural section, then you're looking at a neighborhood up in the 150 range. That's the engineer's estimate. Obviously, when the bid results come in, then we can make that determination if that's what we want to go with. The City of Newman is eligible to receive Regional Surface Transportation Project funding for this project through the Local Assistance Program through Caltrans. There is a required minimum local match of $12,956 if we expend all $100,000. That's our minimum match. Anything above the $112,956 would be coming out of our pocket. The good news about that is it's not a general fund expenditure. So if the bids come in at $158,000, the balance of that, which would be about $45,000, would come out of the city's local transportation fund and not the general fund. The city has a local transportation fund that monies have been put into over time just for projects in our roads of this nature, sidewalks and things of that nature. So this would not come out of that. City staff has researched the possible options to reconstruct the three intersections downtown that are needed to repair, and option number 2 results in a more complementary look architecturally in the downtown. And in addition, any repairs could be done by city staff. Therefore, city staff recommends option number 2 for this project. I'd be happy to answer any questions and seek direction from council.
Any questions or not?
A couple of questions, Garner.
Yes,
You
sir.
saying the intersection out here
On Kern and Main Street.
Kern and Main has
There's no name in it.
no name in it, and we haven't had any problems with it?
Correct. That I'm
Every
aware of.
other intersection we have with names in it, we have problems with.
Correct. That's why we are not recommending option number one, which puts us back to where we are. You have, let me back up the slides. What you have is two concrete slabs adjoining each other, and when that happens with a darker color, the darker color heats up faster than the cooler color and it expands. That's the first problem that you run into. Even though they're similar materials, when you have a lighter color versus a darker color, one's going to heat up faster and cool slower than the lighter color. And having them contract and expand at different rates is when you start getting your spalling that happens. And as soon as you start getting any spalling, water gets down into your subgrade, truck traffic just exacerbates it. And the last problem that we had with this project was the rebar was actually only about 1 inch deep on this one. And you need more than 1 inch to structurally withstand the truck traffic.
So are we going to, but the other thing you mentioned is we'll probably still have problems sooner or later with them breaking down again, even with the second option.
With this option?
Because it's
there
something
may
that's
be an
being set
opportunity.
in there,
Yeah.
so it's not a part of the original cobblestone. It's something that's been cut out and placed in there in place of that, correct?
There is an option. There is an opportunity that may happen. However, with this type of design, if that does happen, say for instance that the E on the Merced starts having a problem again, we can go in there, we can remove those pavers, fix a subgrade issue if we're having a subgrade issue, and relay those, recut them and relay those without having to come back and cut out the whole name and be back where we are today. So you can do some minor local repairs. We're already doing this in some of the downtown areas around the tree planters. There's a brick bands, and some of our brick bands are lifting, and we're going in and cutting the roots and putting the brick bands back down. And it's a, I'm not gonna say a quick, easy fix, but it's an opportunity for us to get in there and fix them and not look as though we've been doing repairs.
Pardon my ignorance on this one, but is there a reason that we did 3 streets and didn't do a fourth, didn't do this one out here? Was there a particular reason why all of them weren't done?
Our staff that was here at the time said this is kind of an add-on, last minute, the intersection. Basically Main Street down there where the names were. So they came back in after they had a little bit of extra money and just went ahead and did the crosswalks here, but did not add the names to it. And then just to add a little extra to your question that you had with respect to the pavers, you know, we actually have paver crosswalks in town. If you go down Driscoll at Barrington, you know, those streets down there, those pavers have been in that road at least a decade or more, and really no
But
issue.
they don't have any, but there's nothing inlaid or set into them. They're just paver crosswalks, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what this is going to be, a paver crosswalk, although, you know, the names are still pavers.
Right.
But they're cut out of, whereas on Driscoll in that area, those are the original, I mean, they were set in there as a whole piece. They weren't cut up and
that'll be the construction process on this one. They will be cutting these out and laying them, they're a paver, and they're gonna have a little bit of give and take, and that's where you're gonna have a little bit of your tolerances that are gonna help with that a little bit. Not saying that you couldn't have a problem because of the color variation between the dark charcoal and the tan. This will allow it to make up and expand and contract for that. I've been told by the manufacturer, and our city engineers called a couple of them about this, that these will last with the proper bedding 25 to 40 years. They're a traffic rated paver. They're rated for 8,000 pounds per square foot versus.
I'll be long gone by then.
Also, if you've been in downtown Turlock,
right,
where Highway 160, where Lander comes across, and it comes across to where Main Street is, they have. I mean, that's a lot of there's a lot of traffic, a lot more, probably as busy as our highway, and they get a lot of truck traffic through there, and they have pavers, 100 millimeter pavers there, and they haven't really had any issues there. So we think for the long-term investment opportunity, you're going to spend a little bit more on the pavers up front. But I think long-term, you're probably getting the best value because of the ease of which you can readjust those later on. You wouldn't have to tear up, you know, cut out a big section of concrete. You can come back in and adjust those pavers accordingly.
Now, with one last point of clarification for council is, we move forward with this. When we go out for the bid for that, we still have an opportunity to change the colorations once the bids come in, because it's up to council's choice and the city's choice on what colors they would like to go with, and even the patterns. You don't have to go with the herringbone pattern or some other pattern, but we recommend the herringbone with the standard 4x8, because 20 years down the road, if you need to replace those, they're still making those.
Herringbone will still be around.
Right. So, and we would be bringing it back to council for further direction when it comes to the coloration and things of that nature and the look of the crosswalks.
So, what type of action do we need to take on this?
It's just a report, so there's no action.
I was hoping to
required.
get concurrence from council, just a direction that we could move forward to get the plans and specs together and to get funding from, the next item to talk about is to get some signatures on some documents so that we can get funding for this project and future projects.
Okay.
So we're hoping to get concurrence. This is the direction council would like to go.
So you believe it'll be between 130 and 158,000
Per intersection.
No, total project.
Oh, total.
It's estimated,
project.
not counting demo, it's about $40,000 per intersection, so about $45,000 to $50,000 per intersection,
Okay.
with $100,000 of it funded through our local assistance at Caltrans.
I'd personally like to see, the further study on it so that we can get a real good idea on what we're looking at, but it definitely something needs to be done because it's,
You would like to see
It's
some
breaking apart.
more options?
More.
well, if the first option is gonna break down faster than the second option, even though it costs more, I think just
No,
common
the
sense
first
wise.
option number one is less than option number two.
Yeah,
Option
but
number
it's also gonna break down probably faster.
It might be back 10 years, we might be back here doing it again.
Now, what I'm saying is if the second option may cost us more, but if it lasts us 25 to 40 years, then it's money saved down the road.
Correct. I'm sorry,
So
I misunderstood you.
I would say look at option two personally.
I concur.
Okay. We'll do that, and then
That's
at a
fine.
future date, I'll bring in, when we get the bids back on this project and everything, I'll do another presentation in front of you so we can get some better direction from council when it comes to actual coloration and things of that nature.
Very good, Gardner. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, D, adopt resolution number 2011, next number. A resolution authorizing the city manager and the director of public works to sign all documents, right-of-way certificates, assurances, and masters agreements and other statements for funding through the California Department of Transportation.
Can I just make a motion that we do this? We don't have to put Gardner through the whole
Are
thing.
you here again?
Yeah, he's up here again.
You better get a raise.
I haven't moved. I can do a quick 30-second pitch for you if that's what you're
Well,
asking.
I've read this, and I think I think we just adopt it personally.
I second that motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager and the director of public works to sign all documents, right-of-way certifications, assurances, master agreements, and other statements for funding through the California Department of Transportation under resolution number 2011, next number.
I second that motion.
Motion is made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion adopted. Thank you, Gardner. The last one was easy, huh? Okay. Moving on. Item 11, items from District 5, Stanislaus County Supervisor, Mr. Jim D. Martini. And it's always a pleasure to have you, Jim, and thank you for coming tonight.
It's always nice to be here. I say Patterson will still be doing the consent calendar, so you guys really just move right along. So I just have just a little bit here, just briefly on the West Side Healthcare Task Force. As everybody should know, the West Side Walks are going on now on each Wednesday night, concurrently at the three cities, Newman, Patterson, and Gustine. The next one is tomorrow. It is our fourth walk. The school districts have been very gracious in allowing us to use their tracks. So we encourage the public to go out there and get some exercise and get a healthier lifestyle. The Health Summit, I've worked on it some today. We're getting our vendors into place. The summit is August 18th right here in Newman at the West Side Theater. I've talked to one of the presenters already from Emmanuel Hospital, and Dr. Walker wasn't in today, so I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. I just have to be sure of what kind of equipment. One of them's going to use a PowerPoint, and I'm not sure about Dr. Walker yet. But anyway, that's moving along. We've got most of the vendors have already signed up. I've got the Ag Commissioner locked in to do the weigh-in. We would expect the city of Newman to have a team, so we would hope that We'd like to get these teams into place. I think the deadline for it is July 22nd, I believe. So if you could get that there, you almost won the first year. So then the school district did win last year. So you got another chance at it. So now's the time that you can probably eat anything you want, and then you can lose it in August. But you know, it's a fun event, but it's also got a serious aspect to it too. That, as you know, the healthcare is limited on the west side, and the best way to stay out of that emergency room, doctor's office, is to have a healthier lifestyle, and to eat better and exercise and not smoke and do things that are bad for you. So that's what we're promoting, and then we're going to have a summit to talk about that. So it should be a nice event. So. And our next meetings, we'll have to have one more to set everything in concrete for the summit, and our next task force meeting is August 4th, right here in Newman. So I would assume that the room would be secure for us. So, and that's about all I have. I haven't heard anything in a while on the flood control project, so I think the city of Newman is working on that. They have some kind of proposal for an assessment. When you have that ready, I'll be glad to take a look at it. Outside of that, that's all I have.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. We appreciate you coming to our city and keeping us updated with all the information.
Yeah, it's not a whole lot this time here, but you know, it varies. It depends on what's going on, but it's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you. Okay, moving on, we have items from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We do have openings on both of our Recreation Commission and our Planning Commission at this point in time. We have two members that obviously, or one member for the Rec Commission that has applied, plus the student rep. We still have an extra opening on the Rec Commission. And unfortunately, due to health concerns, our Planning Commissioner Applegate has had to resign his position there. So with council concurrence, we're going to go ahead and start advertising for those, keeping those open until filled, and then hopefully we'll get some good applicants to come in and fill those big shoes left behind by Tom. Just a word of acknowledgement for the Recreation Department. They did win our city softball tournament this year. Good news is the city administration finally won a game. It took us 3 years, and we had to drag the Chamber of Commerce into it, but they were still a lot younger than us, you know. So, but we had a great turnout, 6 teams, lots of good lots of families showed up. I think it was a real good time for all those who showed up, and we look forward to it next year again. We'll probably do that on a Friday again. I thought that worked really well. People were in town. You got the championship got to play under the lights. We are currently in talks, negotiations, however you would like to call it, about having a second event here late summer, early fall. Kickball, there's a new adult kickball league that's supposed to be really popular. Kickball. Yeah, I know most of us haven't played it since 3rd grade, but it's...
Is that kind of like soccer?
And no, it's like kickball like you used to play in grade school, but they have adult leagues now. They have them at Big League Dreams and a whole bunch of other places, and championships in Las Vegas, and it's pretty big. No more baby bouncies anymore. It's pretty hardcore. So.
Excuse me, Michael. I
Yes.
have to know what kickball is.
Kickball is it's like baseball. You have bases, you have players in the field. You have a pitcher who throws it pretty hard, and you have to kick the ball and try to get on base. And they can throw the ball at you, or they can throw it to the base and catch it. And
You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
it's been a long time since you played that, hasn't it, Rob?
It's about 60 years.
Yeah.
Or more.
So anyway, we're having some discussions on that, or volleyball, or basketball, or soccer. We don't want to do soccer because the PD will have a stacked team on that one. So look forward to that. Currently, with the whole state budget thing that's going on right now, who really knows where this thing's going? VLF, rumors are it's back. It's going to get out there with COPS funding. and those types of things, which is positive for us because it may end up being one, we'll get the $100,000 that we have traditionally got in the past, plus the backfilling of booking fees will come into play, and at this point in time, that's estimated to be about $12,000 to $15,000 for us on an annual basis. So, again, RDA is still on the chopping block with respect to the Democrats and what they're trying to do at the state level. However, all of our legal counsel says what they're trying to do is illegal. We've already paid into a legal defense fund in case they try to take that action. We will be immediately filing a legal challenge to that under the California Redevelopment Association. So it's been very successful for us. I mean, our downtown is a big testament to that. So, I think the redevelopment has had a positive impact on the residents of the city of Newman. So hopefully that will continue to remain alive. So with that, I don't have any more things to offer, unless there's any questions of council at this time.
Just a question, Michael, on the plaza. Do we have an agenda as far as someone that's keeping track of any events that might be taking place there, so there's no conflict of?
Well, definitely, yeah, definitely. People who, obviously have to come through us for authorization to do that, and most of those, if not all of those, will be at least coming to council for concurrence on those. So,
Okay.
yeah, it'll definitely be a watch. It's it's going to be very limited on what we can do. Our partner, the chamber, they've done an excellent job of of looking at that. So they'll definitely be a partner that's going to lead the way, and when they need it, we're going to be here to support them and hopefully help them in any way we can to make sure that event is successful. So,
Thank you, Michael.
you're welcome.
Okay, and staff, so.
Jeez.
Can't get enough of me, can you? I just want to give you a few update on some of the projects that's been happening around town. Newman Family Apartments, if you haven't noticed, they've finally got their paving, not finally, but they have their paving done. It's a really nice project. They've been great to work with. There's been some changes along the way, but it really looks nice, and I think they even have the striping in today. And even the crosswalk is supposed to be a thermoplastics crosswalk going in. So that looks really nice. S&T Street project, they're almost completed. All the curb gutters are in and the concrete works are done. They're supposed to be paving, well, chance of rain tonight. So paving may be Thursday or Friday on that project, and wrap that up. And that should be coming to council for the notice of completion, probably the next meeting, July 12th meeting or the meeting after that. The next phase of that project, which includes P, Q, and R Street, is under design right now. The city engineer's been out and doing their survey work, looking for the areas where we're having some problems in lifting. We're also looking at a priority for the P, Q, and R Street is getting rid of the half pipes at the intersections and putting in legal handicap ramps instead of those half pipes, and get rid of that hazard. That project's currently being designed. We hope to be out to bid with that one as soon as possible this summer. We're hoping July timeframe. Another project that's currently being designed is the M Street sewer line. M Street in the alley between L and M Street over on the east side here is experiencing some collapsing in the sewer main in the alley. So we're putting a project together that's under design as well to replace that. The plaza bathrooms, if you had a chance to drive by and look at them lately, they're almost complete. The structure itself, everything's in, the building's painted. We have the last part of it is to come in and put in the walkway around it. We have another pole going in that'll support another camera location, and then some landscaping and a tree that's going in there. But architecturally, the design turned out really nice. I'd like to thank Stephanie Ocasio. She helped with the color selection and the roof design and things of that nature. And it really, everybody that has looked at it likes the way the color went in. Instead of going a whole brick structure to blend in with the rest of the brick around there, it's been kind of varied with just a low part of that being brick. That project should be completed, and probably July 12th council meeting will be back for a notice of completion as well. And that's the only items I have. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Nope, everything's looking great, Gardner. You're doing a good job.
I appreciate it.
I see the grill has their trees are in and the fence is up. Looks mighty
Yep,
good.
they've removed their big pine tree and put in a nice patio area, and they're waiting on some fencing to go in on top
It's
of that
already
roof.
in.
Oh, the fencing you did get in. I
Yeah,
haven't
they
been
put it in over the weekend.
Oh, good. So they're getting ready. I hear they're going to be in attendance at the event that the Chamber has planned on August 6th as well. They're pretty excited about it. So yeah, it's been kind of a catalyst for some of these vendors around there, or I should say business owners, that they're looking forward to that. The plaza kind of now is starting to reach out into the community.
It's exciting.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing from the chief.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I see a lot of no's back there. So apparently, no more staff members tonight. So we'll go to the council. Hutchinson, Council Hutchinson.
Just a couple of things. Stephanie and I went to, last Friday night, went to Stockton. There was a public meeting on redistricting for our Senate seat, and what they are trying to do is place us a great deal on the other side of the hill, where with a much higher population, and we would lose a lot of what we have. Stephanie was able to make a presentation. I was able to make a presentation, plus probably 50 other people on the Senate, and everybody had pretty much the same idea that we don't have a whole lot in common with the people on the other side of the hill as far as demographics, land use, and a lot of other things. So now that they had their last public hearing tonight. Yeah, tonight in Sacramento was their last public hearing. Then it goes to phase 2, and then they're going to come back and let us know.
July 1st with new maps.
Yeah, that's what they told us, July 1st with new maps. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it that fast, but right now they've really changed the districts up a great deal. Not only the Senate, but the Assembly, and they're tying. I mean, they've tied some cities that are 100 miles apart into the same districts that have nothing to do with each other. So it's a convoluted mess, truthfully. So we'll see what they come out with on that, but we were able to at least voice our opinion on that. The only other thing I have, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, is I got a email from Steve Qualls today on the new budget and the $4 billion of phony money that they don't have, that they say they might get. But they are tying some of the cops' money and stuff to losses in that. If they get $4 million, we don't lose. If they get 3, we lose some. If we get 2, we'll lose a lot. And if we only get 1, lose even more. If they don't get any, then he's got 2 more years to play games. But they've really tied a lot of things to this $4 billion that they have no clue where it's coming from. So that's all I've got.
Called smoke and mirrors.
Smoking mirrors. That's exactly what it's called.
Councilmember Davis.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Councilmember.
Yes,
Dia?
I have a couple of items I'd like to bring up. First of all, I'd like to compliment the Newman Fall Festival Committee on their chicken dinner the other night. Good chicken, good beans, good garlic bread. So I wanted to tell them kudos. And I want to bring up, we had a visitor to our city. This is a gentleman that served 2 tours in Iraq. And on his last tour came back as a paraplegic. And he parked in front of Pizza Plus, took up 2 spaces, and someone put a nasty note on his car. So I like to just say that, before you do that, take a look at his license plate, see that he was a veteran and a Purple Heart. So he needed the extra room to get his wheelchair out and everything from the side. So then the last thing I'd like to bring up is a recent graduate from Oristimba, Jonathan Moreno. His friends know him as JJ. He's up in Sacramento today, and tomorrow morning he takes the oath and off to South Carolina for basic training. So Godspeed to him. That's it.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. And I have nothing tonight other than to say I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and go home and be with your families. And we're going to adjourn to closed session now, and it'll be conference with real property negotiator Merced County APN 054-022-001, GC 54956.8, agent negotiator Michael E. Holland under negotiation price and terms of payment. And then we will return to open session after we have closed session. And thank you again, and we are adjourned to closed session.